Hi there and welcome to my 13th tutorial on C++ 2010 Express Edition, and in this tutorial I'm going to talk about pointers. Pointer is basically something that points to variable or an array, and to be exact, pointers can point to address of a variable or an array, or its value allocated at a specific address. Pointers consist of two operators. One which allows us to point to the address of the variable, as I said previously, and it's called reference operator. And the second operator allows us to point to the value of the variable, and this one is called dereference operator. So first of all, let me just show you how this works with variables, and then we will move on. To create a pointer, we will do the same thing as we do with variable declaration. With one simple touch, as we have to add asterisk or a star if you prefer. So this is how this works. Integer, for example, and you will normally create a number, for example, like this, but to create a pointer we add a asterisk like this. So this is a pointer now, and if I want to create another pointer, I also have to add this asterisk or star and writes another name of the variable. So the asterisk is always in front of the name of the variable. If I don't include it, this will be normal variable. So this one is normal integer, this one is a pointer. Okay, so let me just write a little program, and then I will show you how this works, explain and everything. Okay. Okay, so small program, nothing to worry about, nothing complicated. What I do here is I have created my pointer and normal variable of integer type. Pointer is also of integer type. And number 2, which is normal variable, I assign it to 10. I assign 10 to number 2. Then I say number, which is my pointer, equals to, and this statement means is equal to or points to the address of number 2, and this sign, and sign, is used for to point to the address of the variable. So basically I point to the number 2 address. So if I print this out, you will see the address of that variable as well as its value. Okay, so let me print this out. So you see the address of the variable and the value. Now I cannot predict what type of address I will have, basically, because this job is done by your operating system, so there's no way to predict it, I think. And so this is how the pointers work. It may seem a bit confusing, but the idea is pretty simple. As this method of assigning values through pointers, this is the method, so it's different than you just normally use. And also this works the other way around. So for example, if I assign the address first and then assign the value, it will also work, but a different way. And so let me just show you how this works. So I have number, which is my pointer, equals to address of number 2 first, and then I say asterisk and number, which is my pointer, equals to 20. And then instead of printing out the pointer, I will print out the variable, simple variable, integer, and number 2. And when I run this now, you will see a value, which may seem a bit bizarre because basically I don't assign 20 directly to my variable. Instead, I use a pointer to point it to that address. So now 20 belongs to this address, and this address happens to be this variable, basically. So if I print this variable, it will print this value as well. As I said, it may seem a bit confusing, but it's pretty simple. So that's how this works. Moving on. So that's how it works. You can basically use a address first, or you can assign to the pointer and then use this pointer to point to a values. Okay, so let's move on to arrays. Now arrays, we have different things with arrays because well, things change a bit here. Normally you can't assign whole array to one variable, but with pointers you can actually. But there is one rule which states that you can assign only array to the pointer, and not the other way around, which is not valid, and that is due to arrays limitation. Array is a static constant, so you cannot assign pointers to arrays or something like this. So there's some limitations to this. So only arrays to pointers, and I will show you how this works. So first of all, we have an array int, for example, I don't know, number and 10, let's say. So simple array, there's nothing inside. And let's say pointer, also integer, it has to be integer, and point, say. And now to assign the array to the pointer, we do something like this. And so point equals and number. So notice that I'm not using indexes here. So I simply assign like a address of this array to whole pointer. That's how it works. Probably I have no clue if that's how it works, but that's how it works as it comes to the coding. So this is the valid way of doing this. If you do this other way around, it will not be valid and it will not work. Okay, so how do you use this pointer now to assign the values or use the values from the array? Well, you have to increase the pointer. Haha, you may say you can't increase the pointer. Well, yes, you can, and you do it the same way you do with the integer, for example, variable, for that matter, in the for loop. So you remember the for statement, so you have for, then you open the bracket, you have int I, for example, equals 0, then you have a condition, I, for example, is less than 10, and then you have a increase statement, which is I++. And well, this I++ works pretty much the same as you do with the pointer, well, but the effect is different. So you increase the index of the array by increasing the pointer, and of course it is not limited to just plus plus or minus minus. You can also use a plus equals 2 or plus equals 5 minus equals 3 or something like this. So it's not limited to plus plus and plus minus only. Okay, so let me just show you how this works. So we have a pointer. Now if I want to point to something, so I say point equals, let's say, 10. Now to increase the pointer, I say point plus plus, and then I can again point to and equals, let's say, 20, and then again pointer plus plus, and plus plus, and so on till you got your values in the array. Pointer and equals 30. I will not go through all of this it's not pointer. I will not go all for 10 values. I will just simply output the array for you, first 3 values. So int I is equal 0, let's say, I is less than 10, and I++. I'll simply output something for you. And number, well, if you output the array, you have to actually specify the index, so you should know that actually already. So, and cout, I forgot about cout and new line, so that you will not confuse this. matter. I will add something like this. Okay. Oh, and then let's print this. Of course, well, yeah, you see those addresses. Because I didn't fill it out, you will see some kind of odd numbers here. But as you can see, this one is correctly done. So basically, first pointer, I point to, for example, 10. Then I increase the pointer, which basically increase the index of my array. And I assign to this point, I point to 20 then, which is assigned to my next index. Then I increase the index, point to the next index, the next value, and so on till you finish. So you basically get a array filled in, or you can use, for example, to get the values from pretty much the same way. And that's how it works with the arrays. So this will conclude the arrays actually, because, well, this is pretty much about this. And let's head to void pointers. Again, you may seem baffled because, well, void pointers, does something like this even exist? Well, it does, and it also has its own limitations, because the pointer is void, and normally we don't have void type in arrays or variables, so we cannot use void pointers directly. So the only way is to use address to reference it to other pointers with a certain type, like for example integer or character. So I'm going to show you a program which does that, and it will have a function. So just bear with me. I will have to do a bit of writing. So void add, let's say. Of course, I will explain this to you later on, so don't worry about this much. You just have to write it, and okay, jar, where is it there? X jar, and then x jar is equal to jar. Oh, sorry, not this way. Actually, I don't have to space it. And point. And well, up here, plus. Okay, so that's the function done, and then okay, jar x, and let's say equals. Let's say d, then call the function and x, okay, and cout x. Okay, so this is my function and program. So let me just go through it. In my main function, I create a character variable and assign a simple letter like a D or A. In my case, it's D, and I call my function then and transfer the address of the variable, not the variable itself, but the address of the variable. So that's the difference. Now, as this my function received this, it's assigned to the void pointer I have created here as a send statement, and I have to create a new variable here which will hold this character, because the void cannot directly hold, or we cannot directly use void pointers. So I have to actually create another pointer which is of the same type. I transferred this as a character, so I have to use the same type, also character in this case. Okay, so now what I do is I assign this character, this variable, this pointer to point, but I have to typecast, which is that means you change basically the type of the variable or something like this into whatever you have written here. It could be integer, it could be string, it could be anything. So you typecast it as a character, and this character will be saved in xchar, and ++xchar as a pointer will basically add a value to my letter. And because we can represent characters as numbers, for example in ASCII table, characters are represented in numbers, we can do also the same thing in here. So if we increase integer, if we increase let's say if we increase the character will itself increase as well. So if I plus a pointer x character, then I will basically increase the letter. For example, I use the letter, I will increase the letter or the sign which I'm dealing with. Of course, this is saved in the address, so I don't have to return stuff or something like this, because this is in the address. So this is already saved in here, and if I print it out, you will see a value higher letter than D. So when I print this, you will see E. So that's how it works with a void pointers. So basically, you have to typecast and to get the value the void pointer contains onto the value onto the pointer, for example, onto the pointer, which is the exact same type as your original variable. So that's how it works, and that pretty much concludes the tutorials about pointers. As I said, this may seem a bit confusing, because it quite is, and as I said, just watch it carefully if you need to, a couple of times. I also have a written version of this tutorial, which is a bit more informative. You have all those explanation and stuff written on, so just download it from my webpage, and darkdesign.blogspot.com. You can just download it and read it through if you need to, so everything is for you out there. And this concludes the tutorial, as I said. And visit my webpage and YouTube channel for more tutorials, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.